Hey everyone, it's Andrea Young and Erin Kinghorn, and I are back to give you another tiny talk about music and music marketing. Hello. Hi, Erin.
You look very nice today.
Oh, thank you so much. And you do as well.
I've decided that we need a theme song for these.
Oh, good. What is it?
I don't know what it is, but I just feel that we need a theme song. All the big creators have theme songs.
Well,
And since we're such a tiny creator, we figure we could at least start now.
we definitely need a theme song. So by next week, we'll have a theme song. How about that? Maybe it's the Addams Family. I don't know.
Da-da-da-da. Da-da-da.
All right,
We'll
let's talk playlisting. So the importance of playlisting, I think that's what we decided we were going to talk about today because that is what we spend a lot of time talking about anyway.
all day long, it seems.
Yep, same here. Same here. It hasn't diminished. It's interesting to talk about how it's changed. We've both been in this for 5 or 6 years maybe, right? And things haven't changed. For example, it hasn't changed that everybody still wants to be on an editorial playlist. That hasn't changed.
It's everyone's main goal, right? You definitely see the increase in spins depending on which playlist you get on and also where on the playlist you are, right? Especially new and upcoming artists get really excited about being on a New Music Friday playlist, which, it's great that Spotify's made that support. But if you're lower down from 35 to 50, you're not going to see kind of the increase in spins that you're really hoping for, right? And it's really up to you at that point to be promoting the fact that you're on New Music Friday and tagging Spotify and showing people where you are on the playlist and doing kind of some extra work there to really kind of elevate your positioning there.
Spotify is so great to talk about because they're more transparent than a lot of the other platforms, right? So,
Yeah.
They say about 20% of the artists who pitch through the pitching tool, which is on Spotify for Artists, do get placements on some kind of an editorial playlist. That includes major labels though too. So it'd be interesting to see what percentage of that is major label versus indie. But in any case, that sounds pretty good, 20%, okay. But even if you do get on, it's just the beginning. You can't depend on it. There have been such a small handful of artists that I can name who started out, got on editorial playlists, and now paid for their marketing campaigns, some of their living expenses. Most artists are getting on a playlist, and as you said, they may not see the streams that they might think they would see from an editorial placement. It's a small playlist at the bottom of it, whatever. But it's a jumping off point. Pandora does this well, right? Pandora really pays attention to artists, and I think more than any other platform sometimes really helps artists to get started in trying to jumpstart streams. But again, that's something that you have to, as an artist, follow through on. It isn't done for you.
And I think it's interesting because obviously with Spotify having their Spotify for Artists tools and developing out that section of their communication has been really great because I think it's educated a lot of artists, the ones who've actually read the articles and done everything. But now that you have the ability to pitch to Amazon as an artist or a small artist team, and Apple's just releasing their pitching tool as well, you really need to be looking at these as part of your release plan and also putting in the information as far ahead as you possibly can. So the editorial teams or the teams in general are able to look at it and not doing it 2 days before a release. No one's going to see it. And you're not doing the most active thing that you can for your release.
You're risking that someone won't see it. I always use that example of one of the editors who was having a baby while we were trying to pitch a track. And she was probably gone for a couple of months. When she came back, she actually added it to the playlist, right? But there's a big playlist, but we didn't know. We didn't know. We were pitching, wondering why she wasn't answering. She was having a baby. But you just can't depend on people to look at things immediately, especially since, of course, in marketing, it's that 7-time or 21-time rule, whatever that rule is. You have to see something 7 times before you react to it, kind of thing.
You need to see something 7 times in the 90s. That's what that marketing stat was. That's when I was going to universities. That's when we were told that you needed to see a brand 7 times to really encompass that. With the amount of technology in screen time and brands that we now see, I'm going to say that we're probably at least 40 to 50 times maybe 100 before it actually locks in. Retargeting advertising, there's a reason why it's so aggressive, because you have to hit with that ad over and over again. I'd love to say, oh, I just need to show you something 7 times and we're great. Yeah, that's not where we are anymore.
I know, and it's really hard to do. It's not that easy to do. I try to practice that with DPG. It's more work now for artists, and I know we get a lot of comments about this, but it's more work now than it's ever been for artists and artist teams. It's more work for us now than it's ever been.
It's a lot of work now for coming out of this pandemic, and what does this all kind of look like for artists? What does touring's change so much for people? So many people made a COVID record because what else were they going to do? But a lot of artists also didn't maintain their social media profiles or their digital foundations during this time. And it's now going back to square one and having to rebuild and try to target the algorithm so people are actually seeing your stuff again. And you've got people who have to start over now because they were put on a 2-year hiatus by force.
Not only that, but I think you've got so many more people in the marketplace as well.
So true.
So, in all, competition for DPG, competition for artists, competition for DSPs, all up and down the board.
I'm still saying that the 60,000 tracks a day are going up on Spotify. I think it's probably even higher.
It may be. I haven't visited that in a long time. We know it's a lot because the ecosystem demands a lot. The best practice is consistently releasing music. So what does that mean? That means you're releasing music every 4 to 6 weeks, maybe every 2 months if you can, right?
Yep.
And so how many artists are following best practices? Is it 100,000? Do you know how many artists are, because there are a lot of artists who I think are really serious about trying to get their music heard and say, no, this is best practice, then I have to do it. So I think that's in one way just added to the noise. And in another way, it's made it more helpful because I think the algorithms are paying attention and that they are more refined. It might have just been pop music before. Now there are 100 pop niches.
Yeah, I think that also goes back to some of the conversations you and I have been having about artists that may have to take a look back on catalog now and go, okay, what are the songs that I've released that maybe haven't had quite a shot when it comes to streaming? Creating almost catalog marketing campaigns where you're picking 3 or 5 songs that, you know, you've released over the course of your career. You were trying to create a catalog campaign as it is to help artists out with that. But how do you get people to get interested in music that they might have heard before, but haven't added them to your collections or isn't actually following you because they don't know that's your song? Like trying to get those kind of things activated for you as well.
Yeah, I think you've really hit on something here that is a new trend to some degree. I think 5 years ago, we were saying, oh, you need new music. You just have to have new music. And now we're saying, okay, what if every artist has one track that could go viral? What if every artist has one track that would really resonate with fans? Should we not be working that track? Should we not be trying, even though it's a catalog track that was released 5 years ago, does it matter? How much does it matter? If it was released within the last year or so, I think it's very valid. At some point, the music starts to sound dated, and maybe that's an issue that needs to be looked at.
And the production can sound dated as well. You know, people talk about the new release playlists all the time, right? And, you know, what you and I have been discovering that you end up with genre playlists, lifestyle playlists, mood playlists, like that aren't dictated by when this was released, and maybe going ahead and targeting those and introducing your music that way and really kind of research that out is the way to be going with some of these tracks that are strong but haven't had the right shake, as it were, when it comes to playlisting. You think about how quickly so many albums and tracks were put on the DSPs without any work because they needed to fill them. It was just everyone's catalog went up. And maybe there's some conversations to be had about looking at some of those older songs along with your new catalog as well.
I love talking about this aspect of it because how long does it take to break a track these days? Do you know? I don't know. It matters sometimes what your name is or what your brand is. It can be difficult as an artist if you're releasing consistently. CeeLo Green releases a lot of music. Not every track gets the same attention. depending on what's going on. That's just an example.
Hmm.
Repeat listens and it's save to stream ratios and all of these things that we're being told are really important, best practices. It takes time to get there. That's my point.
Yeah.
It takes time to get there. It takes time if you're constantly seeing music to figure out which track is hitting. Why did it hit? Why does this track have 50,000 streams? That track has 1,000. What's going on with that? Is it the fan base who is reacting very positively, or was it because I spent $50,000 on a marketing budget for that track and that's what I get for it, and I didn't spend it on the 1,000 stream track?
Yeah.
I think these are all places that you are in the weeds on every day. My point is, if it used to take 18 months to break a record, I think it still can take a long time, especially to break an artist, much less a record.
Yeah.
This goes back to that idea of you have to release new music. You have to continue to do that in order to participate, but maybe focus on the catalog. And you and I have seen this with TikTok as well.
Yep, definitely. It goes back to the Fleetwood Mac track last summer or 2 summers ago now. These are brand new tracks for some of these people who are this next generation. It may be a reintroduction. Like I look at the Tragically Hip, and they're doing an amazing job right now on TikTok, going back to old footage and old tracks, and they're looking at duets and getting people to where people may know these songs because their parents introduced them. They know these songs. They just need to be adjusted to them. These are all the things that I think you and I are going to be covering in our fun Tiny Talks that we're planning to be doing here once a week.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope we've given you something to think about as we think about this every day.
And if you guys have any comments or questions or want to find out more about DPG services, please always just send us a DM. We'll more than happy to answer them.